guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the one and only Morello's Theme Deck review. I said that this one would be fun. The Lightning Loop Theme Deck. This is my least favorite of the Team Up era theme decks. I like the theme deck, but it's my least favorite. I'll be telling you guys why, and I won't have the most positive review on it. First up is Zero Aura. You get two of these. Its first attack, Crushing Claw for 20 damage, discards special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. It isn't that bad against Laser Focus and other theme decks that use special energy, however, it could do a little more damage. And discharge for 50 damage at lowest. Discard all lightning energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage for each card you discard in this way. It is really good at doing what it can do. If you get free lightning energy attached to it, then you do 150 damage. And you can easily, for 4 energy, do 200 damage one-shotting anything in the theme deck format. Zero Aura is really good in the theme deck format, just its first attack could be better and its second attack could be set up a little quicker. But Zero Aura has pretty low HP. Personally, I would go for like 130 or 140, but it isn't too bad. Just, I wish the HP was a little higher. Next up is Magnezone. This deck has 20 lightning energy in it, so you can use it really well with this Pokemon. Magnetic Circuit. As often as you like during your turn before your attack, you may attach a lightning energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. It is very good for energy accelerating Zero Aura, Dodrio, Raticate, or anything you need. And Zap Cannon, 4 energy, which is pretty expensive for 130 damage. This Pokemon cannot use Zap Cannon during your next turn, so basically it can't attack. The attack's okay, it hits decently hard. It could hit a little harder, but however, 130 is a pretty relevant number in the theme deck format ever since Relentless Flame came out. So I'm not complaining too much, but Magnezone is very good with Zero Aura. Overall, I think Magnezone's the best card in the deck. It just energy accelerates anything, really. Next up is Free Magneton. For 90 HP, this card has some stuff going for it. For 1 lightning energy, you do 20 damage. Okay early game attack, however, it's a stage 1, so you don't really want to be using it. For free energy, you do 80 damage with Zap Cannon, and this Pokemon can't use Zap Cannon during your next turn. It's a decent mid-game attack, however, nothing too special. Just use Zero Aura if you evolve into Magnezone. Next up is Free Magnemite. For an early game card, it's really good. Searching Magnet for 1 colorless energy, search your deck for up to 3 lightning energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. It's a really good early game for getting the electric energy when you need it. And tackle for 1 energy, does 10 damage. It's an alright early game attack, however, you just want to get your electric energy out, like at least 6 electric energy, so you can boost it up with Magnezone. Overall, Magnemite's actually not that bad. Next up is Stunfisk. It has some pretty decent HP, almost as much as Zero Aura. Could be a little better, but nothing too special. Raging Thunder for 1 colorless energy does 30 damage and 10 damage to one of your bench Pokemon. This sounds bad, but its second attack makes it great. For 2 colorless energy, you do 30 damage, and this attack does 30 damage for each of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So if you damage all 5 Pokemon without dying, Stunfisk can do 150 damage. However, Stunfisk requires a really good setup and probably another one. So if you mess up, then this card is actually pretty harmful. However, if you can get it off, Stunfisk is the best attacker in this deck, other than Zero Aura, no doubt. Stunfisk is a card that needs to be set up in order to work well. It doesn't work all the time, but when it works great. Next up is Dodrio. For 2 energy, which is both the attack, so I won't go over it, you do 60 damage. Flip 3 coins. This attack does 60 damage for each heads. You do 180 damage at max, so expect to hit 60 to 120 since it's likely that you won't get all 3 heads. However, luck can be a god and give you that 180 damage. But if you just want to do a set amount of damage, Accelerating Stab for 90 damage, this Pokemon can't use it during your next turn. It's a good way to do a set amount of damage without luck. However, Dodrio is pretty good if you can get it out without it dying. If Dodrio works, it works great. However, it takes a little bit of time to set up. Next up is Doduo. For 1 energy, you do 10 damage. For 2 energy, you do 20 damage, and you flip 2 coins. This attack does 20 damage for each heads. So at a maximum, you do 40 damage, which is fine. It's a decent early game attack, but nothing too special. Next up is 2 Raticate. It has a really low 70 HP, which sucks, so it'll get killed unless you're fighting an evolution Pokemon. Why? Escaping Incisors, 2 energy for 70 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon, switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Kinda sucks against Relentless Flame. However, I'm not just gonna go about Relentless Flame for like a decent 12 minutes. Raticate's alright in my personal opinion. It's bad, but it's okay if used well. That's the only thing I like about Raticate. It does chip damage and that's it. Next up is Free Rattata. It has a pathetic, seriously bad 30 HP, which is almost as much as a magic card, which is, it actually makes me barf, but its early game attack, 1 energy, not for 30 damage, is actually not that bad, but it'll die the next turn, so you want to get it evolved into Eradicate. Even then, you gotta be really careful with this card because it's a free prize, really. However, if you can get it to work, it can work. Next up is Meowth. As I said before, its second attack doesn't matter. Its first attack, Scatter Day for 1 energy. Draw 2 cards. If you do, this Pokemon is now asleep. I said in my Battlemon review that this card sucks, and I think the same way. It's a draw supporter, which is fine enough in a theme deck, but it has a second effect which sucks, so don't use Meowth unless you use it early game. If you use it mid to late game, why even use it at all? To be honest, I just hate this card. The first supporter of this deck is Cynthia, and my Battlemon theme deck, I said it's great. It's not as good here, but it's still great. Shove your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. It's a really good draw supporter, so I can't say too much about it other than it's just pretty good in general. Next up is Lily. You get 2 of these and it's an alright draw supporter. Draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. If it's your first turn, draw cards until you have 8 cards in your hand. Due to the new Sword and Shield rules, this card's really not as good as it used to be. It was good, it's still good. It's still pretty good if you can use it or if you have a really low hand. However, in most cases, Lily actually sucks. You're only gonna get a few cards just like Hal and Hop. So I wouldn't really bet on Lily unless you had a 1 or 2 card hand. Lily's alright, but it's not too good. Next up is 2 Fishermen. In the Battlemon theme deck, I said that this card was decent. However, in the Lion Loop theme deck, it's actually great because if you use Discharge and do 200 damage and your energy's discarded, you can use Fisherman to get it back, use Magnetism to accelerate, and then do that 200 damage again. Fisherman's actually pretty good in this deck. It's not draw support, so it's not the best thing in the world, but it has some really good uses if worked around. Fisherman's great in this deck because of the energy acceleration potential. I actually think Fisherman's probably the best supporter in this deck that isn't a draw card. So overall, Fisherman's actually great. Next up is 4 Hal. You draw 3 cards. It's an alright draw supporter, however, considering that the Battlemon theme deck had Looker, and this deck doesn't use Welder, you guys can imagine what the next card is. If you guys are guessing, hey, maybe Volkner is actually pretty good, you will be wrong. 4 Looker in this deck. Now, Looker and Volkner, I'm pretty sure are from the same set, so this sucks. You draw 3 cards from the bottom of your deck. It's an alright draw supporter, but the fact that you don't have consistent draw support like Cynthia and maybe Lily if used well, that makes this deck pretty bad, actually. So the draw support isn't too great. Your only good draw support is Lily in some situations and Cynthia. The only item card is Switch. Overall, it's just alright, and it basically serves the same purpose as it does in Battle Line, really, or in any other game that just Switch. Next up is 20 Lightning Energy. The Lightning Energy is pretty good here because of Zero or Magnet Zone, and that's why there's so much Lightning Energy, but overall, this deck's just alright. I'm mentioning all these things about the early, mid, and late game, so you might wonder what that is. I'll show you. There are some cards that you want to be using early game. Magnemite for energy, Duo for damage, and Stunfisk for a setup if it works. Your early game is going to be alright because nothing is going to be going on too heavily. However, if you do well, you'll do well. And in the mid game, you want to start using Dodrio a lot, while evolving into Magnet Zone and getting Zero Auras set up. Zero Auras for damage, Magnetones for Magnezone, and Dodrios for damage. Overall, your mid game's basically the same, but you want to be more careful in the mid game. In the late game, you want to have Zero Aura for damage, Magnezone for energy acceleration, Dodrio for damage, Raticate for situations. Overall, your late game is going to be pretty good if it worked. If your late game works, then you'll basically win thanks to these two cards alone, but Dodrio and Raticate add that extra layer of protectiveness, which makes the deck pretty good. But overall, if you don't get the right setup, you're not going to win with this deck, really. The best card in this theme deck is Magnezone. It charges up everything. Magnezones, Zero Auras, Dodrios, Raticates, Meowths if you're a Psychopath. Anything that works will work with Magnezone, so you want to be using Magnezone a lot with Zero Aura. The worst card in this deck is Meowth, only because it's a draw supporter. And the draw support actually kind of sucks because your Pokemon's asleep after you use it. Meowth's pretty bad. What are the pros and cons of this deck? I'll go over the pros and cons as best as I can, but the pros are, with Zero Aura, you can do massive damage. It's like Relentless Flame. Now, Relentless Flame, I said, has heavy damage, and this deck has heavy damage too. However, not to the extent of Relentless Flame, but still. Lightning Loop and Relentless Flame do the most damage out of any theme deck. You get great energy acceleration with Magnezone, which makes the deck work around like a charm. And you have Fisherman, which works decently in this deck if used well. Fisherman's pretty good. And that's about it. The cons are, you don't really have anything that can tank. Yep, you have Magnezone, but that's about it. And your draw support isn't great. You have Cynthia, which is pretty good. Lily, which is, with the new Sword and Shield rules, it's and Helen Looker, which are pretty bad because they only draw 3 cards. Now, what makes a good draw supporter? Something that can get a lot of cards, or something that can get free cards and does something else, like Welder. And other things are, you can't really tank anything, you don't have good draw support, and overall, this deck it's an easy way to lose. It's a pretty easy way to lose. I know I stuttered on that last bit, but this deck loses without the correct setup. Stunfisk takes time to set up. Overall, this deck isn't the best. And if you want to look at the description for pros and cons without me stuttering for 30 minutes straight, then you can go right ahead and see what works and what doesn't. The score means the balance between the pros and cons. 1 to 2 means all cons, no pros. 5 to 6 means an average amount of pros and cons. And 10 means all pros, no cons. But no deck's gonna have a 10, but again, your decks can try. Try indeed. Overall, in terms of a score rate, I give this deck a 7 out of 10. It doesn't work the best. However, if used correctly, it can certainly be effective. What do I give it in terms of a grade? I give it a B-. I was considering a C plus for this deck, but overall, that wouldn't be too great. A C plus is what I'll give this deck at the worst, and a B minus is what I'll give it at the best. And I feel that I'm in a pretty good mood today, so that's why I give it a B minus. But, however, it could definitely be a C plus if this deck didn't really have too many things going for it. It has things going for it, but that's about it, really. This is the full deck list. Overall, the deck has some things going for it, but I wouldn't really say it's the best theme deck. Now, you can look at the deck and say it's great, but personally, I think it's just alright. The deck's okay, the pros are good, the cons suck, just like any other theme deck, but this deck is something else. It's probably the worst of all the Team Up era theme decks. Now, if you want the best description, go look in the description, therefore, and see what you think about this deck and post it in the comments. Overall, I think this deck is alright. It works if used well, but it isn't great by any means. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry I said a lot more sad in this review, but overall, this theme deck makes me kind of sad because this theme deck could have been great, but I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching. See ya. Bye.